In the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen. So do you know how weird you are? I mean that. And by the way, it's not just you, it's me too. Here's the deal. Think of a time when you did something that was just crazy nice. Something maybe like sitting with a sick or dying friend. Or maybe it was driving somebody somewhere a long distance when you didn't really have the time to do that. Or maybe it was digging deep into your wallet for a good cause, even if you needed the money for yourself. Well, I think probably all of us have done these kind of sacrificial things that didn't advance our interests or help us in any way. We just did it because we cared. But there are the other times too, aren't there? Times when we looked the other way. When we cut corners, or we're just outright mean. For me anyway, I can't tell you how much I wish I could get a do-over on some of the things that I have said and done in my life. And I'm guessing I'm not the only one, am I? This is why I say we're weird. We're this strange blend of goodness and not so goodness. And by the way, this not so goodness thing, it's not just what we have said or what we have done. It also includes our thought life. So what if every one of your thoughts that you've ever had was posted online on X or Twitter or Facebook or one of those internet social media platforms for all the world to see? Every single thought. How do you think that would work? Would you have any friends left? What about your family? Maybe your spouse, or your children, or your parents. What about your boss? It's just weird. It's just weird that you and I are like this. We're this strange blend of goodness and not so goodness. And it's not just us. That is the human condition. So what's up with that? Well, the answer is found here in the greatest story ever told, which of course is the Bible. And a few weeks ago, we began an ambitious project to explore the greatest story ever told from beginning to end. You see, it's in this story, which is one long story, where we find answers to the most important questions in life. Like, who is God? Who am I? And what is life all about? Well, today we want to consider why we, human beings, who have been created in the image of God, so often fail to reflect God's goodness and love to the world. What's up with that? What's up with this Jekyll and Hyde dimension of our lives? Why is there goodness and not so goodness in all of us? Why are you so weird? Okay? We're going to think about that today. Let's take a look. Well, I've told you before about how Hurricane Beryl did a number on our house. 2 big trees smashed into our house, into our roof, crushing the structure and spilling water into 3 rooms. Well, let me just say that dealing with this has been an adventure, shall I say. Among other things, just this week we had a contractor come by to do a little bit of work for us, nothing big. But when he was done, he said to me, okay, now I'm going to charge you X, which is the price that we had agreed on, a fair price. I was happy to pay it. But he said, here's what I will do for you. I will give you an invoice for twice that much. And then you can turn that in to the insurance company. Nobody will ever know. And a lot of people are doing that right now. Well, there's this little voice in my head and say, well, of course, why not? I mean, insurance companies are rich. I mean, I'm paying a ridiculous amount for homeowners insurance. I'm going to take a huge financial hit on this tree thing, on our house. Nobody's going to know. And it's just a little bit. It's not a big deal. That just flashes through my mind, right? Well, that is what Jesus was talking about in today's lesson from Mark. He said, hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that by going into him can defile him. But the things that come out of a person are what defile him. For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, coveting, wickedness, deceit, sensuality, envy, slander, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within, and they defile a person. When that contractor said, hey, look, I can do this for you, and you can make some money on this, you know, I had those thoughts in my head. They just flashed through real quick. But it really wasn't like they originated in my head. They originated in my heart. Now, when Jesus spoke about the heart, when the Bible speaks of the heart, it's not talking about that organ that pumps blood, not usually. No, the heart is our governing center. The heart is what guides our thoughts. The heart is what guides our actions. And see, here's the thing about the human heart. It cannot be trusted. Prophet Jeremiah put it this way. He said, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? And you know this, don't you? I mean, have you ever done something wrong? And you knew that it was wrong, but you did it anyway. And then when it was over, you thought, why did I do that? I know better, but it was too late. Well, what happened in that case was you listened to your heart. You followed what your heart told you to do. Tim Keller, the late pastor, theologian, author, describes how the process works. He said this. He said, what the heart most wants, the mind finds reasonable, the emotions find valuable, and the will finds doable. It's worth repeating. What the heart most wants, the mind finds reasonable, the emotions find valuable, and the will finds doable. In other words, we human beings can justify anything, including all those things that Jesus talked about. Remember them? He said, from out of the heart of man comes evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, envy, and insurance fraud. Insurance fraud. That's what that contractor was talking about, wasn't it? That's what he was suggesting. And out of my heart came a whisper that says, it's okay. You should be doing this. It's the insurance company. They're big. You're little. Of course, by now, I hope you've probably figured out that I told the contractor, no, thank you. I didn't take him up on his offer. But the thought was there. And who knows, maybe in a weaker moment, I might have told the contractor something altogether different. I might have told him, well, heck yeah. Thank you very much. It's weird. There's this goodness, and there's not so goodness in all of us. We're created in the image of God, and yet our hearts cannot be trusted. Why is that? Well, the answer is genetics. Not biological genetics, but spiritual genetics. This issue with our heart has been passed down to us from generation to generation to generation to generation, going all the way back to Adam. You remember the story from Genesis. God created a perfect world, beautiful world, and put two people in it. He said, here it is for y'all. Y'all enjoy it. You have fun. You develop and enjoy each other. Enjoy me. But there's just one thing here. Don't eat the fruit of that tree because it'll kill you. And along comes the serpent. Serpent said, come on, y'all. You can't believe God. You're not going to die. If you eat that fruit, it will make you better. It will make you, the new, improved you. You can be like God. Sounded good, don't you think? Why not? So they made a conscious choice. They disregarded what God had told them. And whenever a person does that, there are consequences. There are always consequences, unavoidable. Usually these consequences are unforeseen, unintended, and uncontrollable. And they just ripple out. They cascade down. In the case of Adam and Eve, Adam in particular, began blame shifting. When God confronted Adam and said, what have you done? The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit of the tree and I ate. So, first, it was God's fault. You gave me this woman. You caused this, God. But that wasn't enough. He had to go on and said, she gave me the fruit. It's her fault too. Do you see, after disregarding what God said and getting caught, something happened inside of Adam. Instead of honestly admitting, I'm busted. Yeah, I did it. Adam was ready to throw Eve under the bus and to point an accusing finger at God himself. You, God, gave me a defective woman. Now, I can't explain how that change inside of Adam happened. That suddenly he would turn on his maker and he would turn against his wife like that. But clearly something broke in there. Inside of the man who had been made in the image of God. Because there is nothing godly about what Adam did. Well, that brokenness inside of Adam cascaded down through the generations. If we go on and read more in Genesis, we will see that Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel. You remember what happened? Cain killed Abel. And if you keep on reading in Genesis, what you'll see is that things just spiraled down and down and down until the earth was corrupt in God's sight and the earth was filled with violence. Didn't take long, did it? And here we are today. Currently, there are 110,000 armed conflicts in the world. And there were 170,000 war deaths in 2023. And here in the United States, 112,323 people died from fentanyl in 2023. Jesus said it originates in the human heart. He said, "For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, insurance fraud, war, drug manufacturing, and on and on." Here's the weird thing about it. The people who are making war and the people who are making lethal drugs, each one of those people was formed in the image of God. There's this goodness and there's this not so goodness dynamic that goes on before our very eyes every day. And I'll say it again, it's weird. It's in you. It's in me. So what do we do about it? Well, I think we can get some guidance. We take our lead from a guy named King David. You remember his story. King David was a shepherd who was plucked out of his life as a shepherd and God picked him to be the king of Israel. And with God at his side, David, everything he did prospered. But one day, David let his eyes wander where they shouldn't have been. And he did what he knew he shouldn't do. He committed adultery with a woman named Bathsheba and then murdered her husband to cover it up. How does that happen with a guy like David? David's God's king, a man after God's own heart. Well, Tim Keller said it. He explained it. What the heart most wants, the mind finds reasonable, the emotions find valuable, and the will finds doable. David's misdeeds began in his heart. Well, one day, with the help of Prophet Nathan, David came to his senses. And it's like, oh, did I? Yeah, oh man, that's terrible. And he was filled with remorse, and he wrote Psalm 51, a psalm of confession and repentance. And in verse 10, he prayed this. He said, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." And you can be sure that David prayed that prayer regularly for the rest of his life. David had come to understand what Jesus would say centuries later, that David's heart did lead him astray and could lead him astray again. David understood his weirdness. He was both good and not good. Just like us. So when you hear that familiar voice, you know it's there. And when it's telling you it's okay, go ahead. It's not that big a deal. Everybody's doing it. Don't listen to it. Don't trust it. Instead, remember where that voice is coming from. and try to remember David's prayer. Create in me a clean heart, O God. If you can do that, your decisions will be better, your life will be better, and you won't wish for as many do-overs. But you will still be weird. Create in me a clean heart, O God. Amen. And now, if you are able,